Hello once again. Prime time with Trevor. Hello there. Here to give you some information you might want to hear and some information you might not want to hear. If you're a meat eater, you might not want to hear this at all. But then again, you might, just because of my funny face and my funny ways. If look at that, it's so funny. Look, I laugh at myself. Right. Serious stuff. I'll try to do it without smiling, but I probably won't, because I smile all the time, you see. Well, nearly all the time. Some people don't see me smiling. Not a lot. Right. Let's get down to it, eh? Let's get down to it. The serious stuff. Serious? Do you get what I mean? Serious? Yeah. Animal agriculture, that's serious stuff. Very serious stuff. Because, as you know, well, those of you who know me know, all farm animals are cruelly treated. All of them. Not just one or two. Not just the factory farmed ones, but all those that you who are meat eaters might consider are humane. Humanely treated, you say. Humanely treated. So it's humane for you to be locked up, is it? That's humane. It's humane. It's humane to be locked up. Locked up where you cannot go anywhere. You cannot go where you want to go. Where you are actually controlled by another species. Yeah. That's right. And that's just the lighter part of what we do to these farm animals. Just the actual control and locking up. One of the others is that we deny them family. We deny them family, which is a basic of all life on earth. Even all mammals, all living mammals, all the farmed animals that we lock up, treat badly, all of them are not what you would call happy. You know, our families are complex, and they are only complex because of our thought processes are massively complex. Animals thought processes are not quite so complex, but they're complex enough to have families, to live as units, to live as a social grouping. Young, old, and of different physical abilities, of characters, having character. Yes, practically, well, all animals have characters. Particularly the ones that you eat as food. Best way to compare it is to think about those animals in a field. Think about what they're doing there in that field. They might be lucky enough that they might have a bit of shelter. They might have a hedgerow or things like that. But for the ones out in the open, that is a apart from anything else, that is quite horrendous on its own. So you imagine when it's really icy cold, the icy cold that you can't even imagine withstanding. Those animals are out in that, no matter what the circumstances. And they're not out in that in a willing way. It's not even part of what would be natural for them. Because if you go out in the wild and you see the wild animals that are out there, you don't generally see them at all. Do you know why that is? That's because they shelter. They get out of the way of any seriously bad weather. In frosts, they will take cover. They will at least go under sheltered areas that will not actually freeze over. They will do that. They would either that or dig burrows or bury themselves in leaves or things like that, just to take away the worst of the cold. But all farm animals will not. They'll be stuck out in the freezing cold, and quite a number of them, many thousands, just die of that cold exposure. Many thousands. And these are quite healthy animals. They're not the weak things that farmers might say they are. They are not. They are the most healthy, fit, young animals. They're not elderly. They're not deformed, other than what humans have deformed them with. And yet they die in their thousands of cold. They do that. The cold gets that done. That's just the cold. Then you've got rain, wind and rain. Wind and rain. You'll see cows or pigs or whatever. They will try to shelter against alongside a hedge or a wall or something, or if happens to be a tree there, they'll try and go under it to get at least a little bit of shelter or relief from the cold winds, the wet, icy rain. It's a horror out there in those fields. Sure, you see them out in those fields, but you generally will nearly always only ever see them when it's nice and sunny and bright, because that's generally the only times that you will actually go out, other than if you happen to have to drive around anywhere anyway, and even then you don't take notice, because driving around you do not notice much at all. Then there's the sun, then the heat. You can't imagine how bad that is for them. Oh yeah, you can start to now, because I've talked about it. I've pointed out little bits and pieces about what they're feeling. But really, the sun is another thing altogether. Now, this isn't just going to be a matter of burning their bodies as they're left out hour after hour in open fields. It's going to be so much of the heat that it causes their breathing difficulties, unable to breathe. You can imagine it yourselves easily. You only have to lay out in the sun for about half an hour And for many of you, that would be absolutely uncomfortable after that amount of time. Yeah, sure. Some animals have a thicker hide, more resistance, a little bit more resistance. But they will still, if they could, they would find shelter, at least for some of the time, because they would not be sitting out and standing out in that heat. They will be panting. Absolutely suffering the heat that you are enjoying. See, I've not even gone on to some of the worst things that happen. Those are bad, really bad in a way on their own. In fact, to some extent, even some of the worst things that happen to these animals by us are only as bad as that, because that is really bad. Those weather conditions, it's just incredibly bad. See, compare them. Don't just see it as that animal. Do not just see it as that animal. It's not just that animal. What that animal feels, we feel. We feel it because we know it. We know that they feel heat. We know they feel the cold. We know they feel the cold rain, then winds. The amount of times you must have seen animals sheltering against a constant wind blowing. You must have seen them laying down, trying to reduce that wind, then huddling together to try and be warm. Cows and pigs are cows, pigs and sheep always do this. Huddle together to try and gain some warmth. But in the wild, they would not need to do so much of that, because they would generally find shelter out of the worst of it. Their lives are hell, created by humans. On the farms, we must do something to stop it. We all must. And we will in time. We will not be stopping. We will not stop talking out for them. I will not stop talking out for them. And we will change people. And this is not judgmental. And it's not telling. It's not lecturing. It's wanting you to understand that this should be part of our moral. It should be part of our morals. We do not need to eat them. We do not need to treat them the way we treat them. We do not need to use them. And we certainly should not be breeding them into existence for our use, for our taste buds. We do not need to do that. Please stop it. Leave them off our plates. They cause us many, many health problems. The most serious health diseases: heart disease, diabetes, many of the cancers that we have. Most of those things are directly attributable to the animal products that we eat. This isn't me. Please watch Earthlings documentary. Earthlings, Land of Hope and Glory. Another documentary. All these documentaries are informative. They'll inform you of some of the things that I've mentioned in this little video so far. Dominion, the newest of them. Cowspiracy, the environment. If you can't see any reason to stop for the animals themselves, think of your health and think of the environment. The amount of destruction we are creating, and the major cause of that destruction is actually farming. Think of the numbers. 60 to 70 billion land animals. This doesn't include the trillions of fish. Just the 60 to 70 billion land animals that we feed and slaughter every single year. Think of that number. Those numbers, 60 to 70 billion. There are just 7 billion humans, and hundreds of millions of that 7 billion are in conditions of near starvation. How is that? Eh? Of course, it's down to mainly to political hostilities. A lot of it, but basically a major part of the starvation is down to us feeding 60 to 70 billion animals every year. In some of those areas where people are starving, crops are being grown. They are actually growing crops there. But the crops that are being grown are not being grown for that people, for those people there. They're being grown to be shipped abroad to countries to feed other countries' animals that are only going to be bred to be food again. The whole situation is just so wrong that it should not be happening at all. Dear. I better lighten it up a bit more then, because I think I'll have a bit of a rest and have a look at what I've just been saying and see whether it's worth putting up anywhere. Bye for now.